Have you ever wondered how people would react to an upset in their life? Stay tuned because that's the subject of today's video about 4 family members who are coping with the unwanted sale of their family home. I'll do a 5-card reading to check in on how each member will cope, as well as discuss the overall outcome of the home's sale. Hi everybody, I'm Sue Ellen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we're learning how to read tarot 1 card at a time. In today's video, we'll be using a 5-card spread to look at 3 generations of family members and how they will react to the sale of their house. We're hoping to answer the question, what will happen to each family member when their house is sold? I will be using the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, and there is the link below. This reading was done at the request of a woman in her late 70s who I will call Margaret. More than 20 years ago, after her daughter Kimberly went through a very difficult divorce, Margaret helped her daughter purchase a home. At that point, Kimberly's son Logan was 8 and her daughter Rebecca was 5. The 3 of them are still living in the house. Logan is currently 30 and Rebecca is 27. Margaret is a widow who lives modestly. She co-signed the mortgage and owns the house jointly with Kimberly, but is the only one who has contributed financially. Kimberly did not work until her children graduated from high school. She held a part-time job for the next few years and stopped working altogether after the COVID shutdown. Margaret has provided Kimberly with the monthly allowance that is paid for the family's mortgage and living expenses. Logan has a good job but does not contribute anything to the household. Rebecca has multiple medical issues and is unable to work. However, she has never been officially evaluated and has neither applied for nor received any Social Security benefits. The reading came about as Margaret is looking to her future and does not have enough money to continue subsidizing her daughter and grandchildren's life. Almost a year ago, she explained the situation and laid out many options, including that Kimberly find a job, that Logan start contributing to the household, and that they look into Social Security benefits for Rebecca. None of this has happened. Meanwhile, the mortgage, utilities, and house insurance have continuously fallen into arrears, and Margaret has had to pay these bills. Over the years, the house has fallen into disrepair. The neighbors have complained about the exterior, and the town has come by a few times to mow the lawn. Margaret has not been inside the house recently, but on a prior visit, it looked like an episode of Hoarders. It has come to the point that Margaret has no more money to spend on keeping up a second household and has no choice but to put Kimberly's house up for sale. She is understandably concerned about how her daughter and grandchildren will fare, and that brings us to this reading. I pulled 5 cards. The first 4 cards are for each person involved in the move. The 5th card is for the overall outcome. The first card that I pulled was for Kimberly, and I got the 10 of Cups reversed. In the upright position, the 10 of Cups is a very positive card. It is known as the Happy Family card, and I think this is how we all want to view our families. We see a happy couple. The man has his arm around his wife. Their arms are outstretched toward a beautiful rainbow made of cups that symbolizes emotional fulfillment. The children are dressed as their parents, which shows they view their parents in high regard. Otherwise, they'd be rebelling and wearing motorcycle jackets. The kids are dancing together, so they clearly get along well. They are overlooking a lush landscape and seem to have everything they need. It looks like they will have enough money to live well. The whole scenario is ideal. The only downside of this card is that the family is standing on a stage. Pamela Coleman Smith, the illustrator of the deck, had a background in theater, and there are many stage cards in the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. So a more sinister interpretation of this card is that the family is pretending to be happy, but it is basically all for show, and the family is not nearly as content as they appear. And I think that this is accurate for Kimberly. And that's because Kimberly has continued to act as though everything is hunky-dory, despite knowing that her financial situation was dire and that her daughter needs serious medical help. In the reverse position, the meaning of the 10 of Cups is far less rosy. The reversed card signifies that there is a great deal of conflict within the family and they could be splitting up. If the family were younger, I would read this as a separation between the parents and potentially a custody battle for the children. However, since the children are now adults, I read this as a breakup in the family and them all going their separate ways. This includes their relationship with Margaret, who has taken on the role of the breadwinner in yellow and has literally been propping up her daughter for almost 25 years. In the reversed position, Kimberly can fall through her arm. I consulted my trusty thesaurus to see the opposite of happiness. Some of the words are sadness, misery, anguish, grief, and disappointment. There are a lot of bad feelings to go around in the reversed card. In the reversed position, we also see the cups in the rainbow have overturned and their contents of love, happiness, and emotional fulfillment have spilled out. So we are left with people who feel isolated, unhappy, and unfulfilled. It is not a nice place to be. In a financial sense, the plight of the family in the reversed card is also not good. They might not have enough money to meet their needs. This may be due to a lack of income because Kimberly is not working, or it might be caused by wasteful spending or an inability for Kimberly to manage their finances. So I think the home sale will be very difficult for Kimberly. I don't see her kids rallying together with her and figuring out a solution. Sadly, I see that the sale of her home will create a lot of conflict with her kids who will blame her for her poor decisions. I also expect that a lot of those bad feelings will be projected onto Margaret. Kimberly will be forced to recognize that her happy family and what went along with it was just an illusion. I shared this with Margaret and she agrees with my assessment. For the last few years, Kimberly has only communicated with Margaret when she needs money, and there have been no birthday wishes or Mother's Day wishes. Margaret does not feel that Kimberly is good with managing money and, due to the lack of communication, is not sure why she hasn't been working. The second reading was about Rebecca, and I drew the Queen of Wands reversed. Margaret explained that Rebecca has a lot of physical and mental problems that have not been fully diagnosed or treated. Rebecca suffers from chronic pain. She also has mental health issues and suffers from depression, panic attack, nightmares, and insomnia. She finds leaving the house difficult and, when she has had doctor's appointments scheduled, does not make it to the appointment. At this point, Kimberly has given up on finding help for Rebecca, and, sadly, Rebecca spends most of her day in her room. In the upright position, the Queen of Wands can represent someone who is ambitious and focused. She is a natural leader who is strong, independent, and comfortable with her own power. She is a person who has a lot of energy and gets things done. She is someone who has a magnetic personality and loves being the center of attention. I suspect this is what Rebecca was like before she became ill. Unfortunately, the meaning of the reversed queen is not nearly as positive. It can represent someone who is domineering, obstinate, and used to getting her own way. She controls situations so that she will get what she wants. It can represent someone who is extremely self-centered. She wants to be the center of attention and can monopolize conversations. It can also represent the opposite, someone who is full of self-doubt and lacking in self-confidence. Someone who prefers hiding in a corner to being in the limelight. Finally, it can represent someone who does not like asking for help. So I see the move as being extremely difficult for Rebecca because she will no longer be in control of the situation. She will be forced to move out of the only home she remembers, which is going to be very tough for somebody who barely leaves her bedroom. I can't tell from the cards if her illnesses make her the center of attention in her home, or if her goal is to just hide in her bedroom. Regardless, this is a situation where she will no longer be able to control her environment, and she will need help, and she won't get it unless she is willing to ask. This will be a very challenging time for Rebecca. The next card is about Logan, and I drew the Page of Wands. When the Page of Wands appears in a reading, it can represent someone who is full of curiosity, enthusiasm, energy, ideas, and excitement for life. It can represent someone who is young or immature. They are the kind of person who loves activity and adventure, jumps into new experiences with both feet, and loves to be the center of attention. I shared this with Margaret and she confirmed that it sounds exactly like Logan. Logan is an extremely handsome young man who Margaret describes as the ultimate salesman. Whenever Margaret contacted Logan about the shortfall in his household bills, he would be extremely charming, give her an explanation, and promise to pay them. However, Margaret soon realized that they were always empty promises, and eventually he stopped answering her calls. The Page of Wands can represent new beginnings and signify that this is your chance to move forward in a new direction. It's a time to say yes to new opportunities and experiences, even if you can't see exactly where they will lead. This might be a new project, travel, a new career, or even going back to school. I see selling the house as being easy and positive for Logan. He'll slide into his next opportunity and not look back. He will stay completely focused on these opportunities and look out for himself, and I doubt he will think much about his mother, sister, or grandmother. I think he'll move on to a happy life. The fourth card is for Margaret, and I drew Judgment. I see this as a very positive card for Margaret. Judgment is about transformation and change. Once the house is sold, she will feel like she's being called back to life. She will be free from the financial burdens that have weighed her down for the last 2+ decades. I see her feeling free and happy. The Judgment card is also about taking responsibility for your decisions. The 3 people in the foreground of the card could represent Kimberly, Logan, and Rebecca. I would hope that the sale of the house awakens them to their role in the family finances. Kimberly bears the brunt of responsibility for her decision not to work or to investigate social programs that are designed to help low-income people. Logan bears responsibility for living rent-free when he could have contributed financially. And Rebecca, although unable to work due to medical issues, could have been more cooperative about seeking medical help to improve her health or working with social services to receive disability payments. For her part, Margaret admits that bankrolling her daughter for more than 2 decades created a scenario of dependence in addition to severely limiting her own financial choices. In the end, I see Margaret thriving after the sale of the house. The last card I drew was about the final outcome, and I drew the 7 of Cups. In this card, we see a person who has lots of choices. Some appear to be realistic, and others are more illusions. Each of the choices leads to a different outcome. Some of these are positive. The jewels, for example, can symbolize wealth and abundance, and the castle can symbolize security and stability. Some of the outcomes can be more negative. The snake, for instance, can symbolize deception or temptation. Overall, I think that the money from the sale of the house will give all of them an abundance of choices that they have not had before. How they handle the choices would be the subject of another reading, but I can see that it might be problematic. Will they spend the money in a way that leads to their long-term benefit? Will they be paralyzed by indecision? Or will they be tempted to overspend to make up for their years of hardship? The 7 of Cups can also be about imagination and illusion. So I wonder if Kimberly has realistic expectations for what she will do with her share of the proceeds of the house, or if she's imagining that things will be different. For more than 20 years, she's received a generous allowance check to cover her expenses. She may have an unrealistic expectation of how far the money will actually go. In summary, this was a 5-card reading to determine how 4 family members would react to the sale of their house, as requested by the grandmother Margaret. First, we looked at Margaret's daughter, Kimberly. I saw the home sale as being very difficult for Kimberly, as it will create a lot of conflict with her kids who will blame her for poor decisions. She'll be forced to recognize that her happy family was just an illusion. Next, we looked at Margaret's granddaughter, Rebecca, who has a lot of physical and emotional challenges. I see the move being toughest on Rebecca, as she does not like to leave the house. I am hoping that this situation will force her to seek help, although the cards don't give me a lot of hope. The 3rd card was for Margaret's grandson, Logan. I don't see him having any problems with the sale of the house. He'll move into his next phase of life and not look back. The 4th card is for Margaret. I see her feeling happy and free once the house is sold, like she is being called back to life. The final card was the overall outcome, and I got the 7 of Cups. This shows that the sale of the house will give them all a lot of choices that they didn't have before. It's up to each of them to choose wisely. I discussed the reading with Margaret, and she was blown away by how accurately it captured her daughter and grandchildren. I hope that this video gave you some ideas that you can apply to your tarot practice. Leave some comments if you'd like to share what you've learned. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd love to have you subscribe to this channel so that you won't miss anything. I'll see you next time.